when we chant the 16 rounds very attentively and without 10 offenses, and when we follow the 4 regulative principles properly uh, throughout life, then we will be able to go back home, back to God easily. So sometimes because this is not done properly, not followed, that is also one reason for fall down. Then another reason is to, as I said, disobeying the orders of spiritual master, neglecting or even offending the spiritual master sometimes. And another reason is when someone has any problem, they don't reveal it to their superiors. So when especially uh, we have material attachments, the 10th offense is to maintain material attachments even after hearing so many instructions on this matter. So actually when we are chanting the holy names, we can see sometimes we get lot of thoughts. So once one devotee was telling that if we carefully observe, all these thoughts are our material attachments. Whatever the mind is distracted to, they are our material attachments. So we have to reveal our attachments to our superiors and take guidance from them how to overcome these problems. So sometimes we are afraid that if I tell I have this problem, then they may laugh at me, or what will happen to my name, fame. So we should not so much worry, because we are here for our purification. And then once the superiors give us solutions, we have to focus on applying that regularly. So Prabhupada says in one of his purports, success is sure for a rigid practitioner. So if we are very rigid in our practices, chanting the holy names and following the 4 regulative principles, studying Prabhupada books, trying to have at least a small arti at home, uh, and hearing regularly lectures of Prabhupada and the spiritual master, and rendering some services in temple, then surely we'll get the final success. But if we are not rigid in our practices, then even as devotees, we have seen in ISKCON also there are so many who fell down. But Krishna is very kind, Prabhupada is very kind. Even after fall down, they come back and they revive, many of them. But we have to be careful. So this is one thing which I thought we didn't discuss last time regarding atonement. Then now we'll go directly to Vacho Vegam. So I think last time we discussed until this particular slide, and then after that the internet connection went off, right? Actually, I was in big illusion. I was going on speaking for 15-20 minutes. I was thinking that everything was going well, and later devotees called me and told that it was not audible. So I hope from this slide only the sound was not clear, right? You can just tell in the chat whether this was the slide, or anyway I'll just continue. So we discussed how the Buddhists in their life, after 15 years of age, they are told to keep silence at least for 4 years. So they believe that by being silent, they grow spiritually very strong, and that is true also in their case. And even materially, the scientists found that if somebody speaks 10 words, the strength which is used to speak 10 words is equal to blowing one bulb. So one should very meticulously uh, choose his words or chose to speak so that he can preserve his energy. And sometimes some people, they artificially follow this vacho vegam, like they are silent Mauni Babas and all sometimes. But we see that their mind is filled with nonsense. So I was giving example of two Buddhists. One of the reporters, he saw that they were maintaining this Maunavrit, but they were watching something on mobile, and they were that photo was taken and shown in printed in the news. So they externally might be following, but their mind is not on Krishna. So that's why they can't stop thinking about Maya. So the frustrated renunciates, the Mayavadis and Buddhists, so they are frustrated with this material world. They want to renounce everything because they feel that everything is giving trouble in this material world. So that's why sometimes these people even renounce speaking out of frustration. So once uh, one person asked His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj that why these devotees, these people always keep on talking, uh, because it is said that silence is gold. So why can't they be silent? Why they keep on speaking when they come together? So Maharaj told that, yeah, actually silence is gold, but our Lord, uh, Lord Gauranga, he is golden avatar. He is the most munificent avatar. Uh, he is he has come to deliver all the conditioned souls. So devotees always discuss about him, his pastimes. So that is not wrong. So in scriptures, uh, the word vikalpa is used when somebody's speech is loose. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, this word is used where it is mentioned one whose speech is too talkative, it is called vikalpa. So Kashyapa tells to Diti this particular word. Also, especially when someone is very new in Krishna consciousness, it is better that they more associate with seniors than equals. Because generally, when neophytes come together, they discuss some prajalpa or they discuss about some rumors. So they may not discuss, as Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Machita Madgata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam. So that's why it is said that it is better if they more hear from seniors, and even when they come together, they try to discuss about Krishna. So discussing about Krishna also means discussing about services also. It's not that we never discuss about services, only Krishna's pastimes and glories. We can also discuss about various management things and all. That is also Krishna consciousness. But other than that, we should not discuss about faults of others unless we are uh, in a managerial position or leadership position. Also, one should not unnecessarily reveal one's mind to everyone. Somebody has some problem or even issue with others, they should only reveal it to their superiors like Bhakti Vriksha leader and all, so that it is kept confidential, and also the purity of all the other Vaishnavas is maintained. Otherwise, unnecessarily it spoils the consciousness of many Vaishnavas. So if the focus is on Krishna Katha, then Vacho Vegam, as Prabhupada main speaks in his purport, it can be maintained. So this is a very famous verse where Prahlad talks about the Munis. So prayena deva muniya swamamukti kama maunam charanti vijanena parardhanishta naitan vihaya kripanan vimumukshayeko nanyam tvadsha sunya sharanam brahmato anupasye. So here Prahlad is saying, my dear Lord Narsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mauna Vrat. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. So Prabhupada says in this purport that devotees don't want to go to Himalayas and all for Mauna Vrat. They are supposed to preach Krishna consciousness following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. So why Prabhupada built such big temples in cities and towns? He could have built a small hut in some Mayapur and stayed there chanting, because he knew that people will not come there. He has to build big temples so that it attracts the conditioned souls, and that is a place, if people come, then they can be given Krishna conscious messages. So Prabhupada also says it's the responsibility of devotees to go door to door and preach Krishna consciousness. Yare dekha tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. So Prabhupada many times he says it's the response Bharata Bhumite hoi hoile janmajar janma sardha kari kara paropakar. It's the responsibility of those who are born in India to share this divine message with others, because all over the world people are suffering. So at least we can share with people in our city. If uh, forget about other cities or other countries, but at least the people in our own town, in our own city, the neighbors. So this should be the mood of devotees. This is how we can remain Krishna conscious. So preachers means we have to preach with proper attitude, but it is a nice opportunity for preachers to remain Krishna consciousness, to remain in Krishna consciousness, because they have to always prepare for giving lectures. They have to share, they have to speak, even when others are attentive or not. The preacher is supposed to be attentive, right? So the preacher has lot of advantage. So Prabhupada said that anyone in ISKCON can preach. There is no qualification required. If someone knows even one sentence that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is sufficient for preaching. Even Saraswati, the small girl, Malati Mataji's daughter, Prabhupada said she is the best preacher. Even big scientists, philosophers, they don't know who is supreme, but she knows who is supreme. And she used to tell also people. She used to go and touch people and say, do you know? They will say, what? She will say, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is how she used to preach. So once Satswarup Maharaj asked this question, because he liked to be in solitude sometimes. So in one of the slokas it is mentioned, Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Aratir Jana Samsadi. So it means that living uh, in solitude and giving up the association of non-devotees. Okay. So Satsvarum Maharaj asked, what is this? What does this mean? So Prabhupada said, actually living in solitude means giving up the association of non-devotees. So the best way to give up association of non-devotees or to be alone is to be with devotees. Uh, because you are alone and also you are free from material life. So even when one is in the association of devotees, one can experience uh, being alone. How? For example, suppose you are in Mangalarti, you are physically in the association of devotees, but actually you are alone with yourself, right? Means you can actually experience developing that relationship with spiritual master and Krishna. Everybody individually has the opportunity to be alone with spiritual master and Krishna, right? Although physically you are in association, but you are still alone with Guru and Krishna, right? So in that way, even in association, one can have one's own solitude, uh, right? Even while hearing Krishna Katha, although we are physically in association, we can see that everyone experiences different emotions, right? According to the attitude of the hearer. If somebody is very eager to hear, then he will experience a lot of Krishna conscious emotions and devotion towards Krishna. But if somebody is not attentive, he may be sleeping, right? So even in association, when we are together, we can experience different emotions depending on our attitude, right? So even when we are in association, we should try to induce each other by our right attitude and eagerness to serve Krishna. That eagerness to serve Krishna inspires others also to hear attentively or serve attentively, serve with eagerness. So, but that doesn't mean that devotees should always talk. Uh, Sometimes we can be silent also. So, like for example, when Prabhupada was traveling in flights, many times he used to just be silent, just chant for 6 7 hours also continuously. He would never talk even a single word. And sometimes when he used to meet some big donors, like in Chennai, once he met some life members. So they asked Prabhupada, can you speak on some intimate pastimes, Ras Leela of Radha and Krishna? Prabhupada kept silent. He didn't speak a word. He said, this is very high for me, I can't speak. So like that, we can be silent also sometimes. So Narada Muni, in his previous life, when he was a child of that Shudrani woman, so there he talks about 4 qualities which he had, because of which he could get the mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas. What are they? Dante, Akridanake, Alpabhashini, Anuvartini. So we'll not discuss in detail. Mainly we have to discuss about Alpabhashini. First is Dante is self-control. Akridanake is not attached to sports. Anuvartini is being obedient, submissive. But important thing to focus here is Alpabhashini. Means only to talk that much which is required. Being concise in our speech. So sometimes when we ask someone something, we should be careful to only answer that much what is required. We need not tell many other things here, there. We can stick to the point. So that will save everyone's time and energy, right? So once one devotee in Juhu, he was serving in the GBC meetings, His Holiness Rompad Swami Maharaj. So he wanted to, he was too eager to serve. So again he used to go and knock the door and say, Maharaj, would you like to have something? I am here to serve you. So again he used to go, and Maharaj finally got fed up. He said, the best service you can do for me is to get out from here. Don't disturb me. So we should be careful, especially while dealing with everyone, but especially with great souls. We should be sticking to the point. We should be very sensitive in our speech so that they don't get offended or disturbed. So Prabhupada also says, reading useless books, that is also not following Vachovegam. So there are so many useless literatures which we need not read. Then we know this famous sloka, Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam, the peace formula. So in the second line it's mentioned, Suradam Sarvabhutanam Gnatva Mam Shantirichyati. So that sloka explains how we can be peaceful. How? When we understand Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, supreme controller, and our best friend, then only we can be peaceful. So simply being quiet, that will not help one to be peaceful, because externally, as we said, one may be peaceful, but internally mind may be screaming. So the best way to remain peaceful is engaging all our senses in the service of Rishikesh, the master of senses and mind, right? So when we engage our mouth, tongue in glorifying Krishna, that is the best way of controlling our speech. So there is a famous saying, a fool is undetected as long as he doesn't open his mouth, right? So in Kumbh Mela, you may see a lot of Mauni Babas or people wearing ashes and all, Naga Babas and all, completely naked. But these people, sometimes they may maintain silence, or sometimes we see they are just talking nonsense. Sometimes these Mauni Babas, they have a slate. They don't talk, but they keep writing. But if you see what they are writing, they are only writing about sense gratification, nothing else. But the devotees, they want to always glorify Lord. So there is an analogy given, just like when there is moon in the sky, full moon, then there are very high tides in the ocean. Same way, a pure devotee, when he sees the moonlight face of Lord, then he wants to dance and chant in great ecstasy. So the devotees may always be chanting and dancing and glorifying Lord. So that is the right way to engage one's speech. So in the other part of Vachovegam, Prabhupada talks from the commentary of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Anuvriti explanation. So there, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says, what is the reason for these urges? Our material identification with this body and mind creates these urges, right? When you think you are this body and mind, aham mameti, I am this body and everything in relation with this body is mine. When this identification is very strong, then these urges are created, right? So, but when you understand, actually you are not the body, your soul, part and parcel of Krishna, you are neither body nor the mind. So then we can easily control our body and mind, the senses. But because of this very strong bodily consciousness, we again fall victim to this three type of urges. Under the demands of body, the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals, they all come. So anger also, yeah. So that means if we can come out of this bodily consciousness, then it is very easy to control these urges. That's why Prabhupada again reminds us in his purport. Sometimes we may be thinking why Prabhupada talks so much about soul, or even Krishna, or repeatedly even in Bhagavatam, so many times the discussion happens about soul and our eternal position, because we keep on forgetting. So that's why we need to be reminded. Anything which has to be emphasized has to be repeated again and again. So at least on our level, intellectually, we should be convinced that I am not this body but soul. We may not have the realization, because the realization comes only uh, when there is, when we serve great souls, and when they are pleased. Yeah, I'll just answer the questions once this is done, Prabhuji. 1 minute, in 1-2 minutes, is one question here. After this Vacho Vegam little bit is getting over, then I will answer all the questions. So yeah, so when we please the pure devotees, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gnanam gnaninas tattvadarshina. So the pure devotees are tattvadarshis. So they have seen the truth. So they can also reveal us the truth, the spiritual truths, when we serve them and when we please them. So although we know it, we hear, but many times we fail to remember or realize that we are soul or eternal servant of Krishna. So we need blessings of great souls to come out of this bodily consciousness. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he talks that one who practices resisting these demands or urges, he is called a tapasvi. Okay, one who practices these austerities of controlling all these vegams. So by doing such tapasya, so tapasya sometimes may be in the sense to perform these austerities, it may be sometimes difficult controlling these urges and all. But as Lord Rishabhdev says, this is good for our purification. Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhyed yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. So by doing tapasya, we get purified. So if we don't control these urges, we fall victim to material energy. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says another urge to speak is books. So many people talk nonsensically and they write so many volumes of books because of the urge to speak. So to counteract this, one has to divert one's talk to Krishna. So sometimes when we go for book distribution, we see, like when we ask people to go through Bhagavad Gita, sometimes they say they have their own Bhagavad Gita. Even Bhagavad Gita also, many people write their own commentaries. So people have this strong tendency to show off or not to speak their own glories. So in the explanation further in the commentary of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he quotes this slokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, which deals with Vachovegam. Nayadvachaschitra padam hareresho jagat pravitram pragranita karhichit tadvaya samtirdamushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramanti usikshaya. So those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So, in this purport, Prabhupada talks about two types of people in this world. One is compared to crows, another is compared to swans. So, the swans are pure devotees who always glorify Lord, while the crows, generally we see the crows are at dustbins searching for some food. So Prabhupada says the materialistic people who write useless literatures, they are like the crows who are only attached to writing everything about sense gratification. They are not at all interested about Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says there is a great need to write literatures glorifying the Supreme Lord. And the swans, they are always together glorifying the Lord. Then the next sloka also talks about this glorifying Lord. This is a very important sloka. I think even in the first page of Bhagavatam, this is given. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhaddavatapi namani anantasya yasho ankitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. So I heard this is a very important sloka describing, this is very inspiring sloka for book distributors, because Prabhupada elaborately explains about the importance of spiritual literature and their distribution, and how by distributing books they can be a revolution in the modern civilization, misdirected civilization. So Prabhupada mentions that although he is not so scholarly, actually Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had many disciples, sannyasi disciples, scholarly disciples. They were even more scholarly than Prabhupada in terms of Sanskrit and all. But Prabhupada is no less in that sense. But Prabhupada very humbly says that even though his translation and purports of Srimad Bhagavatam may not be properly framed or written, still they can be accepted because they are all describing the glories of the Lord. So Prabhupada mentions, we will not discuss much, but Prabhupada tells how these books, this glorification of Lord can bring a revolution. So we see when when Prabhupada went to Russia, Sham Sundar Prabhu carried one Bhagavad Gita, which he was also not knowing. Malati Mataji keeps, and because of that, uh, that Gita was given to Ananta Shanti Prabhu, the first Russian devotee, and he translates it and distributes in Russia. So we see because of that one Gita, now we have more than 1 lakh devotees chanting 16 rounds in Russia alone. The Soviet Union, they have lot of devotees. In Russia alone, I heard there are 1 lakh devotees chanting 16 rounds. So this shows how Prabhupada books glory, which is glorification of Lord, that brought such a revolution. Not only in Russia, all over the world, including India also. In India, nobody was following, but when Prabhupada came back and devotees came from Western world, even in India, we see so many became devotees. So one should spread the glories of Lord. So this is a verse coming in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about the austerity of speech. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchyate. So here Krishna is telling the austerity of speech consists of in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. So here are certain parameters which we should keep in mind when we are speaking. What are they? Again, I'll repeat: truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and it should be based on scriptures. So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful purport, so which you can read on your own. We don't have time now, but basically Prabhupada tells how if we follow all these things, then one speech will be really valued. So in conclusion, how we should apply this Vacho Vegam. So the purpose of our speech should always be to elevate consciousness, what Krishna consciousness of others and also one's own Krishna consciousness. If our words are not helping to uplift one's Krishna consciousness, then better we remain silent. Because unnecessarily when we speak, it can create envy also. In the sense, when you suppose somebody keeps on glorifying about oneself, it can even create envy, or somebody unnecessarily chastises or becomes angry, it can create offenses, right? So we should stop this tendency to talk behind people's back, in the sense gossiping, useless talks. So our speech should always be uh, focused around pleasing Krishna and devotees. If we follow that austerity of speech which we saw in the previous verse, then it will be most pleasing to Krishna. Also, whenever we have any problem, sometimes we only discuss about the problem. That I have this problem, I have that, what to do, what. So if we keep on meditating on the problem may even grow bigger. So better than speaking about problem is to speak about the solution. So by discussing the solution, we'll have an idea how to overcome these problems which we have. Okay, this is how we can apply Vacho Vegam in our life. So there was one question. Now if any other devotees also have question on whatever we discussed until now on Vacho Vegam or the previous atonement and all, you can ask questions in the chat. So here is one question. What is the difference between uprooting the sinful tendencies and completely burning them into ashes, as described in Brahma Samhita, Karmani Nirdahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam? Okay. So when we perform devotional service, it is mentioned that it it is completely the bad karma is completely burnt into ashes. So it is same only, in the sense there is no difference. So this is in Brahma Samhita and that is in Srimad Bhagavatam. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. There it is mentioned how devotional service uproots all the sinful tendencies. It is the same thing only. But one thing is that we should be one thing, as I said, which we should keep in mind is uh, we take the process seriously, as we explained why even devotees fall down. Uh, because devotional service is so powerful, one should not fall down, right? But as we discussed those reasons, if we can sincerely endeavor to follow those uh, things, then there is very less chance of falling down. Success is sure for a rigid practitioner. So if nobody has any more questions, we'll go ahead with Manasa Vegam. Okay. Okay. One one question here: how to attain attentive chanting? That is a big topic. But in short, if we can, we will discuss that in Manasa Vegam actually. Most of that will be covered in Manasa Vegam. After that, you will be able to understand very easily how to control our mind. Okay, so that will surely come in Manasa Vegam. If not, then you can ask. Thank you. So Prabhupada mentions in Manasa Vegam the restlessness or fickleness of mind. Uh, the Manasa Vegam is controlled when one can fix his mind on Krishna's lotus feet. That is the only way by which we can control our mind and senses. Just give me 1 minute. I'll drink water. So, Prabhupada quotes this verse: Krishna Surya Sama Maya hai andakar. Yaha Krishna taha nahi Mayara adhikar. So wherever there is Krishna, there is no Maya. There is no question of Maya. So just like when there is sun, there is no darkness. Now we can see there are so many clouds outside. It's quite dark because there is no sun, right? So that's why uh, when there is Krishna constantly, in the sense when we are always constantly endeavoring to be Krishna conscious, Krishna consciousness, then there is no question of Maya entering our minds. Okay, so yogis, they try to control their mind by negation, by the process of negation. Uh, Means they uh, try to meditate on void or Brahman, but we see by doing such things, they don't get completely purified, right? So, okay, one question is there, but I'll answer after this Manasa Vegam, because already I told we have started. I'll surely answer. So we see examples of Saubar Muni, Saubari Muni or Durvas Muni, that although they were performing Ashtanga Yoga and all, but because their heart is not purified by this process of Ashtanga Yoga and all, so that's why they fell down, right? So only Krishna consciousness can help us to completely control our mind and senses. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary tells what are the reasons for agitation of our mind. Avirodha Priti, unrestricted attachment. So when someone is attached to the philosophy of Mayavadis or attached to the fruitive results of karma kandis, or they are strongly attached to their materialistic plans, then one's mind becomes very uncontrolled. So we see even ourselves, as I said, when our chanting goes on, our mind goes all over the world. So we can see that they are all our attachments. When we are attached to people or things of this world, then there is distraction of our mind. Okay. So, but if our heart is pure, then there will be no distraction in our chanting. Okay. So only because, so we should carefully analyze what are different thoughts which are coming while chanting. That shows our material attachments. Okay. So there are devotees like His Holiness Satswarup Maharaj who regularly maintain a japa diary. They write how their chanting is, and they always try to introspect and improve on their chanting. So that is one good way to improve our chanting, because many times we just chant and we keep the bead bag aside and we forget. We don't think much about how the chanting went. Is it really focused? Are we really with Krishna, or we are with someone else or with something else? So we have to carefully keep a watch on our mind. Another thing he tells is Virodha Yukta Krodha, the anger arising from frustration. When our materialistic plans are not fulfilled, then one becomes angry. So these are two reasons explained. So now we will see how the mind is compared to. This I have taken from different lectures which I have heard, uh, whatever I remember. So when we understand the nature of mind, then it is very easy to control it. Without understanding the nature of your enemy, you cannot conquer your enemy, right? We have to know the strengths and weaknesses of our enemy, right? Then only we can control it. So mind, Krishna says, is our greatest enemy when it is uncontrolled. So mind is compared to a child. The child never remains calm, right? He keeps on running here, there. Same is with the child. Same is with our mind. There are continuously thoughts, right, coming one after another. It is never quiet. It is always restless like a child. And mind is compared to a bird. Why? The bird, it flies on two wings. Same way our mind goes on the wings of past and future. We keep on thinking about past. मैंने ऐसा क्यों किया? I should have not done this. और future में क्या होगा? What will happen? What will happen in future? So we have to cut these two wings of mind, past and future. We have to be in the present. So even while chanting, our mind goes on these two wings. So we have to be focused on the present, not past or future. Mind is also compared to a spy. So sometimes in army, to know the strengths of enemies, what they do, sometimes they send a spy to the opposite army, and they send him as if he's a soldier of that army, and he goes and acts as if he's a soldier of that army, and he knows the entire information, and he reveals it to the opposite side, and that is how they win over the enemies. So the mind also we trust. So there is a saying, if you think that the worst enemy is your best friend, then it can do the greatest of damage. Okay, I'll repeat. If you think the worst enemy to be your best friend, it can do the greatest damage. Okay, so we trust foolishly, we trust our mind. We think, we put full trust on our mind, although it is our greatest enemy. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, mind is the greatest non-devotee. It is within us, and we still trust it foolishly. So we should never trust our mind. And it is also compared to a monkey. Like a child, monkey keeps on jumping from one place to another place. So if you have doubts, please write in chat. So a monkey is restless, same way the mind. And it is compared to a photograph camera. What camera does, it keeps on, we click photos and it is stored, right? Same way, the camera of mind, it stores all the information, whatever we see, whatever we perceive with our senses, it is stored in our mind, and later on whatever we see, it comes out like a photograph, right? If somebody sees something bad or heard something bad, later on it comes out. And mind is also compared to a prostitute. The prostitute is unchaste, it runs along with the paramours. Same way, the mind runs with the paramours of lust, greed, anger, like that. There is a verse we'll see in Bhagavatam. The mind is also compared to a good and bad dog. So initially the mind is like a bad dog. According to the inputs you give, it either becomes a good dog or a bad dog. If you keep on giving good inputs, then it becomes a good dog, in the sense it will be under control. But if you don't feed good inputs, there is a principle called GIGO: good in, good out, garbage in, garbage out. So if you give good inputs, you will have good output. Means your words, action, behavior will be good. If you speak bad, garbage in means bad inputs, bad outputs will come. Mind is also compared to a genie. So the genie is never quiet, right? In the sense, there is a story of a person who got a genie. The genie is fully active. It is never quiet. Whatever you ask, it will provide. It will do it. So the person was fed up because whatever he said, it was doing. Finally, if he doesn't give any work, it will attack the owner only. So same way the mind also, if you keep it unengaged, it will attack us only. So then what the owner does, he tells the genie to climb up a ladder and come down. So the genie goes on up and down the ladder. So the comparison is, the mind should constantly be engaged in chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So there is a lot of sound coming, that's why. So the mind, if it is constantly engaged in chanting the holy names, then that is how it can be fully be controlled. Another example is just like in Yeah, I will answer after this. Please wait. After this Manasa Vegam, I will answer all the questions. In a circus, sometimes we see there are people who take care of wild animals like tiger and lion. So sometimes we see when they are inattentive, those very wild animals they attack and kill the uh, animal trainer. Same way the mind is like that. If you are inattentive, this very mind can kill us, means spiritually. And as I said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said the mind is the greatest non-devotee. We should never believe in our mind. So there are certain natures of mind. So it goes in a step-by-step way. First, the mind starts thinking about a particular thing or person. There is thinking, there is feeling, and there is willing. So initially it starts with thinking. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsha. Uh, so we should stop. If the mind thinks about sense gratification, we should stop at thinking only. It should not go further to willing or feeling, feeling or willing. So there should be there should be a spiritual alarm in our consciousness. When the moment mind goes away, immediately we should become conscious. Oh, now the mind is going for sense gratification. I should bring it back. The mind is very emotional, especially when we are not Krishna conscious. It goes by emotions. Uh, Whenever there is sense gratification, immediately our mind gets affected strongly. Uh, Mind is also a storehouse, as we discussed. All the inputs of the senses, and they go and they get stored in our mind. And the mind has these three. We discussed this also. There is vritti, there is vasana, there is samskar. Vritti is a small tendency, in the sense there is a impression of sense gratification because of our past sense gratification. This is very small, but when the impressions become more and more, it becomes a tendency which is much more strong. It is called vasana. And when the tendency becomes strong, then it becomes samskara. Okay, which is much more strong. Okay, so we should stop at vritti itself. We should not allow the mind to become vasana. The sinful tendency impression should not become a sinful tendency. It should not become strong impression in our mind. So then we'll be able to avoid. Otherwise, finish. So as I said, Krishna tells Dhyato Vishan Pumsha. The moment mind starts contemplating about Maya, immediately right there we should stop the mind. As we see in police, when there are terrorists, some very no sinful fellows, lot of sins, criminal acts they have done. What they do? Shoot at sight, right? The moment they are found, they shoot them. Same way, we should be like that. Shoot at sight, in the sense, the moment there is sinful thought, we should immediately shoot it. How we shoot? Our shooting is by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in Bhagavad Gita, there are so many shlokas talking about mind. So we will discuss few of them. Bandhuratma manastasya enatmaima jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatma iva shatruvat. Krishna tells, for him who has conquered the mind is the great best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will be the greatest enemy. So, in the beginning stages, we should understand it is not our friend. We should never trust the mind. We should always trust only Krishna and scriptures, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Because The mind will always try to take us away from Krishna. Next, chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadradam tasyaham nigraham manye vayorihva dushkrupam. Arjuna tells what is the nature of his mind. He says the mind is very restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Oh Krishna, to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the mind, controlling the wind. So controlling the mind is more difficult than controlling the wind. Arjuna is telling. That is true. We can see how the mind becomes very, very restless. So Krishna tells some more slokas. Uddared atman atmanam anatmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So if you control, then it is your best friend. Otherwise, worst enemy. We see in Manthara and Kaikeyi pastime, Manthara is compared to mind. So Kaikeyi was a very good lady, but she listened to Manthara and she got completely changed. So when you listen to the evil mind, then we get distracted. So here are some solutions. We should stop contemplating on sense objects. Dhyayato Vishan Pumsha. The fall down starts by Dhyayato. So right there we should stop. And as I said, Gigo principle, garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. So we should always be careful to only take good inputs into our mind using our senses. Like we know the famous three monkeys, right? Bura mat dekho, bura mat bolo, bura mat suno, right? Same way, devotees should avoid all bad inputs. Another thing which is very important, we should not eat food cooked by materialistic people, because whatever consciousness they carry, that comes, we also become like that. That food carries that consciousness. We see in Bhagavatam, Ajamil ate the food of that prostitute. She was cooking, and because of that, he became more and more sinful. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also was very strict. He never entertained eating food of materialistic people. So he said, Vishayer anna khaile malin hai man. So when you eat the food cooked by materialistic people, then the mind becomes very, very malin, dirty. So we have to give purified inputs to our mind and mind using senses. So we should only take Krishna Prasad. The food becomes Krishna Prasad when it is cooked by devotees, offered by devotees, served by devotees. As far as possible, we should try this. So then purify mind and intelligence by maintaining regulation and vows of chanting. The best way to purify our mind is by having a regulated lifestyle, waking up early morning and chanting our rounds very strictly. That is how our mind can quickly get purified. Radhesham process, if we wake up in the Brahma Muhurta and chant, the effect will be 4 times more than normal chanting in the daytime, because daytime is mode of passion and ignorance. Morning is Brahma Muhurt, where even demigods serve the Supreme Lord, very auspicious time in mode of goodness. So that is the best time to perform devotional activities. So we should follow this verse, Yuktahara Viharastai, regulated eating, sleeping, recreation and work. If you are regulated, then also it is easy to control our mind. Okay, because if you every day change your schedule, keep on changing, so mind becomes very disturbed. But if you have a same schedule, if it is possible every day, then it becomes very easy. Mind becomes tuned to that particular schedule. Okay. uh, Also, actually, I just remembered one lecture. Whatever our mind is tuned to, we receive those inputs. If our mind is tuned to Krishna, then we receive those things, means we will remember those things. But if our mind is tuned to sense gratification, we receive all those type of thoughts in our mind. We will remember those things. So we should understand, uh, as Krishna tells, senses are most inferior, above that is mind, and above mind is intelligence. So we should keep our intelligence very strong. How? By studying scriptures regularly. Prabhupada said every day devotees should read his books. He said real tapasya is to read my books 5-6 hours every day. So we may not be able to read so much, but at least if you read 1 hour, we can be very Krishna conscious. We can save lot of our time, energy. Our mind will not be distracted. So my intelligence can easily discriminate what is Maya and what is Krishna when we regularly read. Without reading, mind will go away by emotions. And we should scold our mind. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wrote this bhajan. Dushta mana tumi kishera Vaishnav. What kind of Vaishnava are you? Like Krishna also chastises Arjuna. Kutasva kashmalamidam Vishame samupaistitam anarya jushta asvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. O Arjuna, how come these impurities have come upon you? You are supposed to be a Arya, civilized person, but how come you are thinking like this? So we should chastise our mind. You rascal, you are supposed to think of Krishna. Externally, you are like a Vaishnava, wearing tilak, kanti mala and all. But what kind of thoughts are flowing in your mind? Is this, are you a Vaishnava really? Or you are just showing off? So we should chastise our mind heavily. Then only our mind will be no, on Krishna. Otherwise, it is very difficult. So we should be indifferent. We should neglect the mind. Like Haridas Thakur, no, that is different. But that is a different thing. But that also I'll explain. So we should understand we are not this mind. We are neither the body nor the mind. Sometimes we very strongly identify with the mind. Whatever mind says, we blindly follow. Blind lead the blind, both fall in ditch. So we should be careful. We should, that's why, focus on good chanting. So that chanting can help us to focus on Krishna. So mind also delights in remembering and serving the Lord. So we can try to engage ourselves in hearing the pastimes of Lord and serving, taking some serious responsibilities in Krishna consciousness. So that way our mind will be absorbed and relishing Krishna consciousness. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Right? When you have a higher taste, you can easily give up lower taste. Another solution is to pray to Krishna. Krishna is Hrishikesh, controller of mind senses. So, oh Krishna, please control this mind. And as I said, we should be absorbed in services. In one of first class, I think I was telling, if we have 24 hours, we should plan for 26 hours. There is no time for Maya. Okay, so like that, if we seriously plan, then there is no space for Maya. And we should understand the illusions created by mind. We should understand Maya's love is temporary and illusory, but Krishna's love is eternal and real. So sometimes the mind goes by imaginations. uh, but all these illusions are only temporary. You should understand it's all illusion. Okay, so but only Krishna's love is eternal and real, because he loves us eternally. His love is real love. All other love of this world is all illusory, because it is all based on bodily consciousness. So when we are convinced about this, our mind will not be attracted by the illusory pleasures of this world. Otherwise, the mind will keep on getting distracted to the illusory pleasures uh, given by Maya. Okay. Prabhupada says constant chanting of Hare Krishna can help us to uh, be saved from accidental fall downs. So we can practice this. And in our mind, there are so many negative samskaras, deep impressions. As I said, samskaras are very, very deep. So just like wet cement, when somebody walks, there is impression. So later, if we want to remove it again, we have to fill it with cement. Like that, there are many negative samskaras, impressions already in our mind. So now we have to replace it with Krishna conscious, positive, absorbing samskaras, which we really like to do. So everyone may like one particular aspect of Krishna consciousness, like hearing. So we should keep on doing it. So this already I discussed by reading Prabhupada books, and we should be alert. And mind should have only two things always: sadhana, seva. Seva, sadhana, nothing else. So if we have that in mind, then there is no space for Maya. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says we should beat our mind in the morning with broomstick. Broomstick means not literally, if sometimes required, maybe literally also, but it means with Krishna Katha. And evening, we should beat our mind with shoes. Okay, so like that, we should beat continuously our mind with Krishna Katha. Then we will be able to control. And the mind can be easily controlled when you are in mode of goodness by following regulation. In mode of passion, it becomes very difficult. So Krishna also gives some solutions. Asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena cha grihyate. So what Krishna is telling, oh son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb this restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by constant practice and by detachment. So this is one solution. Constantly you have to practice controlling the mind. And another solution, yato yato nischalati manaschanchalam astiram tato tato niyamyetad atmani evam vasamnayet. Wherever and whenever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the mind may go here and there, like the child, goes to pick up something here and there. You catch him and bring him back. Like that, we should control our mind. In Bhagavatam, this slokas come. Nityam dadati kamasya chidram tadanu erava raya yogina krita maitrasya patyurja eva pumshali. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. Very dangerous sloka, right? So the Anarthas in heart are compared to this paramours of a unchaste woman. So if we are not careful with them, they will finish our spiritual practice. Okay. Next, one more sloka. काममन्योर्मदो लोभा शोकमोहाबाद भयादय कर्मबन्धस्य यन्मूला स्वीकुर्यात् को नु तद्बुधा. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? So we should understand the root cause of all problems is mind. This was identified by even this in the 11th canto. What is this? Sorry, I forgot his name. This miser, Avanti Brahmana. Yeah, Avanti Brahmana, he identifies the root cause of all problems is mind. So that's why a learned man never trusts the mind. Another nice sloka to control mind. Bhartavyam enam tad adabraviryam upekshaya heditam aparamatta guror haresh charano pashanastro jahi velikam swayam atmat mosham. Very nice verse. It tells this uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, this is told by Jadabharat to Rahugana. Please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of spiritual master and of the supreme personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. So what is the solution? The solution is service to the lotus feet of spiritual master and Krishna. So if we are attached to the spiritual master's instructions as we discussed, then it is very easy to control the mind. So there are 5 stages of mind. We'll quickly finish this and go ahead. One is mudha, means the mind is filled with completely ignorance, like an ass. Once there was an ass which was walking towards on the railway track. So people said, "Hey, get out, you will die." The ass heard it, it was silent. After shouting, still the ass started going towards the train and finally it died. So same way the materialistic people who are completely in ignorance, they are heading towards death. They are compared to mudas, their mind. Then there is kshipta. Kshipta means the mind keeps on accepting and rejecting sense gratification. So there is a distraction in our mind. The mind is like pendulum. It keeps on oscillating. Whatever, sometimes it tells, okay, accept. No. Sometimes, no. Like that. So then after kshipta, there is vikshipta. What is this? Means later one may become attracted by the sense object. And that attraction becomes stronger and stronger and it develops into a strong attachment. So that is called vikshipta. So kshipta is small attachment or it's only a small distraction, but vikshipta is when we become very attached to the sense object. So the solution to overcome all these problems of kshipta or vikshipta is hearing the glories of the Lord and becoming attached to Lord. Only then we can overcome these problems. So then eventually when the mind is in mode of goodness, only then one can attain the stage of ekagrata, when the mind is able to fully focus with pure attention. And then finally from there you elevate to samadhi, niruddha, where one is fully absorbed on Krishna. So it is said dharana, dhyana, samadhi. There are three stages. Dharana means when you are focused on an object for 12 seconds. Dhyana 12 by 12. Samadhi 12 by 12 by 12 seconds. So much if you can focus on Krishna, then you are in Samadhi. But in chanting, what is our stage? We are more or less on Kshipta and Vikshipta. We have to raise ourselves from this stage to Niruda, right? So there is a nice sloka in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. I'll not read it, time is less, over already. It says that in the stage of perfection called Samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So this is what is samadhi, where one is fully absorbed on Krishna, fully joyfully practicing Krishna consciousness, never departing from the absolute truth. Okay, so this is a fine. Oh, just how to engage our mind. The mind needs positive contemplation. We always have negative contemplation, unfortunately, sometimes finding faults or thinking about sense objects. That is a default position. But mind should always have positive contemplation. So this is required for stability in Krishna consciousness. So what positive contemplation we should do? Because without positive contemplation, the mind will, uh, it is necessary for simply ignoring will not work. We cannot just ignore the mind. We should also keep the mind on positive contemplation. So what should be our contemplation? Our contemplation should be on holy messages of scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. After hearing, we should contemplate how I can apply this in my life. That is contemplation. And we should also contemplate on great souls like Prabhupada, how they sacrificed their lives, how they applied the spiritual master's instructions in their lives, right? So that contemplation can be there. That will really inspire us. Also, we can contemplate how the lives of devotees, various devotees, and our own life, how it is transformed by these messages. And we can also contemplate on spreading the messages of Krishna consciousness. This is how we should engage our mind. Mind should never be given a chance to think negatively about Maya. So this is another austerity of mind which is given by Krishna. Mana prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samsuddhir iti etat tapo manasam uchyate. So I will tell only translation. You can read. These important points are from the purport. So you can read that. Then we'll see the questions. Satisfaction, simplicity, self-control, gravity, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of mind. So I request devotees to go through this 17.16 to see what is real austerity of mind. Like Prabhupada says, to keep the mind aloof from sense gratification uh, and to keep it on Krishna. So this completes Manasa Vegam. So we'll just take few questions which are asked and we'll end the session today. So there was one question on chanting. So I think this answers that question. If not, you can again ask. We discussed a lot about how to keep the mind on Krishna. focused. So there is one question here. Right now we are in cities. Daily my life is with non-devotees. How can we come? How can we follow Vachovegam? How can we be successful? Okay. So Pardasadi Prabhu is asking. So actually, when we are in non-devotees, Radheshambra was saying, when there is no association, you create association. So you preach to the people in your company or wherever, and try to at least make them well wishers. So whenever there is lunch or other times, there are many devotees I saw who are working in companies. During lunch they discuss from Bhagavad Gita, and they discuss a lot about Krishna. uh, so that way we can have a small circle of favorable people. Everyone may not be favorable, so you have to find out who are really favorable, and for that you have to invite them to temple, or you discuss, you give them some prasad and try to make them favorable and discuss Krishna consciousness. So like that, even in company, you can follow Vachovegam. Otherwise, generally, they keep on talking all rubbish. So better if nobody is favorable, then you can keep distance from all non-devotees, because unnecessarily it will pollute our mind. So another question by Padmavati Mataji. If anybody scolds or praises, it will ring while chanting. How to avoid? Yeah, actually, when someone scolds us, it is a big topic, but in short, it is good for our mind. Actually, uh, we have lot of false ego because of identifying with this body and mind. So by chastisement, that false ego will go away. So we should be happy. Actually, I heard in one lecture that we should be grateful to the people who help us to become Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahisnuna. So when people chastise us, it is a good opportunity to become Trinadapi, right? So we can be happy. So when you are happy, then there is no question of that thought coming in our mind. And when people praise us, we should understand it is not because of us. It is because of Prabhupada, it is because of Krishna and so many devotees who are helping us. So we should contemplate on how so many devotees are involved in the success or in whatever I do. So how someone made me a devotee, because of which people are praising me, right? So we can be grateful to all those devotees. So that's why when we sing Prema Dvani, all glories to uh, Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to assembled devotees, right? That means no glory for oneself, 100% to others. So like that, when we contemplate, then our mind will become peaceful. There is another question. When we do Aarti, we start the first verse of prayer. The mind is in control. Without knowing, we reach last verse. Parallelly, we are doing lamp offering, flower, and suddenly we realize at the end of the verse and get doubt that did I sing all the verses? Mind is somewhere. So yeah, when we are doing our Aarti or singing also, we see that our mind is distracted. Our mind is distracted. So that's why we should come to mode of goodness. In goodness, mind is at least uh, thoughtful. What we are doing, is it right or not? So we should read scriptures. We should chant more rounds. So then the mind gradually will come to goodness. So in goodness, you will be more thoughtful. Actually, when we are singing Mangalarti or any artis, it is a wonderful opportunity to develop our eternal relationship with Guru and Krishna. So if you are wasting that time, then we are losing a wonderful opportunity. Sometimes devotees think that how can I develop relation with Guru or Krishna? Every day we have so much time. Chanting, chanting is our time where we develop relation with Krishna. When we sing Mangalarti, that is the time we develop relation with Guru. When we sing uh, Guru Puja, that is the time we develop our relation with Prabhupada, right? So we have to be focused when we are singing. We should not be all over the world. So that is how we can come out of that problem. We should understand the importance of what we are doing. We should not do mindlessly. Yeah, so yeah, we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the intelligence nor ego. We are soul, part and parcel of Krishna, correct? So even the soul is not belonging to us. The soul also belongs to Krishna. The only thing which belongs to us is our free will, right? Yeah, we are soul, but even the soul doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Krishna. So we should engage the soul in Krishna's service. So another question, during social functions where we have to take prasadam, how to take? So better we don't take if it is not prasadam. We need not take there. Better we take when we go back to home. We can otherwise take only fruits, uh, fruits instead of taking all those items cooked by non-devotees. We can take fruits or milk. Even when we meet some donors or well-wishers, they also like to offer some food. So we say, please only serve fruits. And that too, they should not cut, because if they cut, they may use the knife used to cut chicken or mutton, right? So it is contaminated. We should tell, we should only give the fruits as it is. Later we can eat them, okay? Or there only we can eat banana and all. We can mentally offer the banana to Lord, uh, and then we can take those things, okay? So that is how we can avoid. Otherwise, unnecessarily our mind will be contaminated. We don't know who is cooking, in what consciousness, what kind of people. uh, all those unnecessary things come in our mind. So why to take risk? Okay. So here we end today's class. So we'll continue next week with the, what is this, Krodha Vegam. Thank you very much. Sorry I took little extra time because last time we could not cover 15-20 minutes. Thank you for all your time and association. Please bless me that I can follow what I am speaking. It is just a collection of lectures from various sources. It's not my material or so. But the most important thing is to apply what we discussed. So please pray that I can also apply these things. Hare Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.